Anybody at Denny's at 11 o'clock at night needs help, right? So I walk in, true story. I walk into this Denny's 24-hour place. It was right near the hotel where I was learning my tools. And I walk in, and this guy's standing behind the counter there, sitting behind the counter with his meal. And I walk in and go, "Excuse me, sir, my name is Tony Robbins. Tell me any problem you have, I'm gonna handle it right now." And gradually I began to realize this was not the best approach. And so I launched my career starting in Canada, and I did it by challenging traditional psychiatrists and psychologists by saying, "Tell me your worst patient, I don't care who they are, I'm gonna handle it right here, right now." Because what happens when I first went on the air, I'd say I could cure anything, I don't care what it is, I don't care if you're phobic, whatever. And then what would happen is people would call up and I'd say yes, and I give them a money-back guarantee to get results. But the psychiatrists in the early day would attack me, say I was a liar and a charlatan, it was impossible. So all I would do is say, "Great, give me your worst patient. Give me somebody you've never been able to cure." I said, "I'm sure you have plenty of those." I had to work with them, right? And after about, not even 3 months of doing that, my reputation got aligned. No one ever attacked me anymore. And as the years went by, I got a little bit more mature. The truth was I didn't have a degree, and I was sensitized, so I didn't have the degree, and I was defensive about it. And then if someone attacked me, obviously I attacked back as hard as I could. Fortunately, I had some skills to attack back with where I could get results instead of just attacking. But as the years went by, I got more mature, and I said, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to anybody else. And now that I've got a couple million people that I've trained, I also have about 15,000 psychiatrists and psychologists. So as a result, things changed. But what really became my trademark was this challenge format where I would go out and I'd say, "I don't care what your problem is, stand up here, I'm gonna handle it now." And I'd do these in those days in free guest events to build my reputation so that people would see my work was real, and then they'd sign up to come to my seminars. And when you do that a lot, pretty soon your whole life becomes, "What's your problem? Boom. What's your problem? Boom. What's your problem? Boom." And I got so wired by that, and I was just doing whatever it took to create change within people. But then I had an experience, and I was really proud of myself. Years went by, I was very successful in what I was doing, loved what I did. And then I had a really neat learning experience that helped me to understand lasting change even more powerfully. And the experience was a man came to one of my seminars, and during one of the breaks, he walked up to me and said, "Do you recognize me?" He was very intense. And I said, "I don't remember your name, but I do recognize you." I said, "I meet about 10,000 people a month, but I recognize your face. I never forget a face." I said, "Let me think for a second." I said, "I don't know your name, but you're from New York." Right, which is probably a good guess by his intensity anyway, right? Right? But seriously, I did remember he's from New York. He said, "Yeah." I said, "I did a smoking therapy on you 5, 6, 7 years ago." He said, "That's right." I said, "How you doing?" He reached in his pocket, he pulls out a pack of cigarettes, Camels, sticks in my face, he goes, "You failed!" And I felt myself get a little angry. I said, "Don't get angry, learn. Stay centered, learn." So I said, "Wow." I said, "So you're smoking?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what happened? I worked with you back then for an hour. How long have you been smoking at that time?" He said, 16 years. I said, "How many packs a day were you smoking?" He said, 3 packs, sometimes 4. I said, "Okay, so 16 years. And I said, "So I came work for you about an hour, right?" I said, "What happened?" He said, "I stopped smoking." I said, "For how long?" He said, "For 4 years. And I'm looking at him, right? I said, "You'd smoked for 16 years, 3 or 4 packs a day, right? I work with you for an hour. You don't smoke another cigarette for 4 years. Now you're smoking, and I screwed up?" He said, "That's right, because you didn't program me properly, or I wouldn't have gone back to it." And when he said that, I went, something to think about. I went, wow, neuro-linguistic programming, which was what I was teaching in those days, gives you this illusion that someone else is going to program you, and then everything will be fine. But see, my life doesn't work because I programmed myself 20 years ago and everything's perfect. My life works because I've conditioned myself. There's a difference. Because conditioning, you can condition yourself enough that you stay pumped, but you have to keep yourself in that environment. It's like you don't go work out once and go, "Now I'm fit for life," right? You make it part of your life, part of your lifestyle. It's self-reinforcing and you love it. It's who you are. And that's why you're fit and strong and healthy and so forth. So I thought, isn't this interesting? Because I'm so wanting to help people, I'm being the source of it. So I went out and I did a little research project with 3 of my associates, and we called 100 people that I'd done work with over the years to see how they did. Of those 100 people, roughly 97 of them had lasting change. There was 3 of them who didn't. In all 3 cases, they had the exact same pattern. I hadn't programmed them, some language like that. So what I began to realize, and I continue to follow up over the next few years, is that really there are 3 beliefs you have to have first to have lasting change, and then there are 3 steps you have to take. So first, let's do the 3 beliefs, okay? The first belief you must have to have lasting change is that change is a must and not a should. So you have to believe that something must change. Not that something should change. If someone says, I really should go on a diet, I go, ain't gonna happen. Because I know should never happens. Should you do when it's convenient. Should is not consistent. Musts are the things we find a way to do because we go, it is a must. We take it to a different level of consequence in our bodies and our minds and our emotions and our spirits. So if there's something you haven't changed and you keep thinking about it but still hasn't changed, I guarantee you one of these or more of these three beliefs is missing. First one that's probably likely is you really think you should change, but it's not a total absolute must in your gut. Now some people really is. They think, well, this weight must come off, but then I'm going to run to Jenny Craig or someone else to do it for me. Now, there's nothing wrong with Jenny Craig. She's great as a coach. But if Jenny Craig's the one doing it for you or Tony Robbins the one doing it for you, then I get the muscle and you don't. So I'll be stronger and healthier and you'll be okay for a while until you get off on some uncomfortable thing. Then you can blame me or Jenny Craig or someone else why it didn't work. But if you know you're the source, then there's only one place to look, which is in the mirror. So it cannot be based on someone else. It's got to be, it must change and I must change it. Now, some people believe, okay, this weight must come off, and I know I must be the one to do it, right? But, or, this environment, something's got to be done, and I know I must do something, but they have a third belief that keeps them from doing it. And that third belief you got to have to do it is, I can change it. I can change it. Why is this one important? Why do you got to believe it's not only change, it's a must, but also, secondly, believe I must change it, and most importantly, I can. Because if you don't believe you can change it, then are you going to put a bunch of energy and effort and force into something you think's not going to work? Of course not. For you to really get the result that you want, you've got to believe you can. So very often people go, yeah, this weight must come off. I know I must do it, but I can't. Why? They'll say, I tried everything. Right? I've tried millions of things. I've tried it all. You've not tried it all. You've not tried everything, or you would have got results. But we start telling ourselves these stories and we start believing those incantations. Now, one of the reasons they believe they can't do it is because they never have before. So I want to give you a core belief to write down that's really, really important. And that is this: the past does not equal the future. The past does not equal the future. The past does not equal the future. See, so often people say, I can't do this. Well, it's because they haven't done it before, or they've never done it, or they think they've tried everything. Well, you haven't tried everything. And if you try to drive in the future using a rear view mirror to guide yourself, I got news for you, you're going to crash. You have to be able to look forward and create what you want, even if you've never been able to do it before. If you just tried it and it didn't work, this moment is new. Something about you is new. You made a new distinction, something you may be unaware of. Maybe the environment's changed. Maybe you just need to change your approach. But you got to believe that you can, because the only reason to say you can't is you think you've tried everything, which is a lie, or you believe that it just has never worked before. The past does not equal the future unless you live there. If you live in the past, then I guarantee your future will be the same way. Now, these are just beliefs, but beliefs control our actions. You might want to write down another phrase, and that is all beliefs carry with them consequences. All beliefs carry with them consequences. Human behavior is belief-driven. Okay? All beliefs carry with them consequences, and human behavior is belief-driven. What does that mean? It simply means that if somebody does something, they got a reason. Even if it may seem insane to you, even if they may not know what the reason is consciously, they got a reason. It's based on something they believe, that by doing this, it'll give them something they need or want unconsciously, some set of feelings they need. That's why people do what they do. So we all need to understand what a belief is, because people make a belief into a thing, and all a belief is a feeling. A belief is a feeling. That's all it is, right? A belief is a feeling of certainty. That's all a belief is. A belief is a feeling of certainty about what something means. So when you say, I believe this, you're saying, I'm certain about this. If you say, Tony, I believe I'm an intelligent person, what you're saying is, Tony, I feel what? I feel what? certain that I'm an intelligent person, okay? That's all a belief is. Now let me give you a metaphor. What's the difference between an idea and a belief? Well, you can have an idea that the world is flat, but not believe it, not feel certain that the world is flat. Or you can have a belief that the world is round and be certain the world is round. Let me give you a metaphor for it. Here's the difference between an idea and a belief. An idea is like a tabletop with no legs. Now, what's the problem with the tabletop with no legs? If you push against it, what's it going to do? Fall down. There's nothing to hold it up. There's nothing to make it solid or certain. What a belief is a tabletop with legs underneath it to support it. So let me give you an example. I want you to think about something for a moment. How many of you have references? I'm not saying you believe this, but you have experiences. Now, by the way, references can be things you've experienced, things you've read about, things people have told you, or even things you've imagined. Can you imagine enough things that you're certain how things are? Like make up something in your head and then find out later you were dead wrong? How many of you have ever done this? Say aye. Okay, so references are not just experiences from the past. There are things you can make up, read about, etc. How many of you have some beliefs that intellectually you know better, but emotionally they still control you? How many have some beliefs like this? Say aye. Okay, so the only reason you develop a belief is so you can feel certain and make decisions quickly about how to get pleasure or how to avoid pain. So the only way you get rid of a belief is you destroy it by sweeping the legs, like questioning these references. Like in a martial arts competition, you take out somebody's legs, their fight disappears. Same thing is true with a belief. The other way you can get rid of it is by linking a massive amount of what to the old belief that doesn't serve you? A massive amount of what? Pain. If you link enough to it, your brain will avoid it, and now you have a chance to create an alternative, okay? So now, let's talk about what are the 3 steps. These are the 3 beliefs. It must change, I must change it, I can change it. What are the actual 3 steps to creating change? Here's the first step. You want to create lasting change in yourself or someone else. This is always step 1. If you tried and failed to create change, this is the thing you didn't have enough of, and it's called leverage. Leverage. What is leverage? Well, leverage is when a person in their mind, in their body, in their emotion, in their nervous system, when they link up, that not changing, like failing to change right now, will mean unbearable, immediate, devastating levels of pain. I guarantee you they'll find a way to change. Like what if you said, I'm really depressed, and I put a gun to your head and said, get happy quick or I'm gonna blow your brains out? How many think you might be able to find a way to get happy rapidly? Let me see your hands. Whereas for years you were sitting on a therapist's couch and you couldn't handle it. The only difference is I brought more what to the table? Leverage, greater consequence. The reason we don't change is, on the one hand, we want to change because we're not thoroughly happy. But on the other hand, we're afraid changing itself might be painful, or we might go through that whole process and it still might not work, and then we'd be disappointed and that feel even worse. So the reason we don't change is we think change equals pain. The reason we do change and when we see not changing is more painful than anything else. So to get leverage, you want to accomplish 2 things. You want to get the person you're wanting to change, whether it be yourself or someone else, to associate. Associate means not just intellectualize. It's like intellectually you may know chocolate's not good for you, but that's not going to change your behavior until we mix it with tuna casserole in your nervous system. When it's in your gut, now your body will respond. When it's in your head, it's intellectual. So when I say associate, think about association means something you feel in your nervous system rather than something you understand intellectually. How many follow that? Say aye. So to get leverage, you want someone to associate, feel in their gut that not changing equals massive, here's the other key word, immediate, unbearable levels of pain. So to get someone to change, if you've tried everything and it doesn't work, you need more leverage. Get yourself or that person you're working with, whoever you're trying to create change with, to associate that if I don't change, it's going to mean massive, immediate, unbearable levels of pain. Some key words there, massive. Another key word, immediate. You might say, you know what, if I keep smoking, I'll probably get cancer. You know what the problem with that is? It's not immediate. It's way off in the future, in the distance. So when you put it further away, it almost didn't have much effect, did it? Well, when something is thought of as to be way off in the future, even if it's bad, it doesn't give us enough leverage to change. When it's immediate, that's when it gets us to change. Now, people don't want to change just for painful reasons, so the other form of leverage is this. You want to get this person to associate, which means in their gut, not in their intellect, that changing now, to change now, equals massive, extraordinary, and immediate levels of what, guys? Pleasure. See, when you link up in your brain, changing is pleasurable and not changing is ultimate pain, the person will find the way. Write this in your notes somewhere. Change is never a matter of ability. Change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of motivation. Another word for that is leverage. When someone has enough reasons, they will flat change, period. But you got to get enough leverage. And I'll tell you how we keep ourselves from getting leverage. We use words that soften what we're doing. Like we say, well, I'm a bit overweight, or I'm a little bit, robust, or, I'm round, in big places and stuff. No, you're fat is what you are, okay? Okay? And you got to call a spade a spade. Because as long as you say, well, I'm kind of, a little smidge overweight, you're never going to do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't care if you're overweight. I don't judge you. I care about you. I don't want your heart to be working 20 times harder than it needs to be and have you die a young death. I don't care about how you look. That's your business. But if you're overweight, the reason you're overweight is you don't give yourself enough pain for it. You do softeners because you don't want to feel bad about yourself because you think you've tried everything. So I've tried everything, nothing's worked, so I just got to adjust to this. So I want you to get it. You got to tell yourself the truth. I'm telling you this as a friend. I'm not telling you this from judgment. And by the way, do we all do this at different levels, yes or no? And by the way, this isn't just fat. We do this with finances, right? We do this with drugs. We do this with relationships that don't serve us. You got to blindly tell yourself the truth. And that's painful, but that pain will serve you because it will move you. It's like Stallone. If he'd gone off and made himself feel good, he would have lost his hunger and drive. So that's why he didn't take on another job. He stayed there in the pain so he'd have to be driven forward. How many follow that? Say aye. But you know what most of us do? The minute we get a little pain, we want to immediately get rid of it. So we drink something, we eat something, we smoke something, we watch something to take away the pain of the moment. But when you take away the pain, you take away the drive to change. And so now change is not a must, it's a should. And so you keep on feeling bad about yourself, never getting what you really deserve. Whether it be the mind, the body, the spirit, the emotion that you deserve. So you got to be honest with yourself. How many follow this? Say aye. You got to not only be honest, you got to pour it on a little bit and get enough drive. It's uncomfortable, but that discomfort will give you the leverage to really finally do something that is lasting. Okay? Really, 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 really critical here. By the way, think of a change in your own life, or maybe someone you know, that was really hard for you to make. Like really hard. You kept trying to change, never followed through. And finally one day, wham, you said, that's it, no more, never again, it's over. How many have had one of those experiences where you finally got so mad, you got so much pain, you finally changed forever? How many have had one of those? Say aye. That's the day you got enough leverage. Now you don't want to wait for life to have to do that to you. You want to be conscious about it. You want to be direct about it so you get what you deserve. That's what you really have to do. How many have ever done this in a relationship? You're in a relationship, it's a terrible relationship, but you keep rationalizing it. Well, it used to be good, it'll be good again. Because see, if the present is painful, you can always escape to the past. If the past is painful, you can always make up a future that's better. Because no one really knows about the future, so you can make stuff up. And as you make it up, it's a reference that makes you more certain it'll be okay, and you kind of stay where you are. How many of you got in a relationship at one point where you finally said, I've had it, it was painful in the past, it's painful in the present, it's going to be painful in the future, I am out of here. And you got enough leverage. How many have done this? Say aye. But until you were honest with yourself that way, you hung out in numbness. See, most people live in a world that I call no man's land. They're in a place where they're not really happy, but they're not unhappy enough to do anything about it. And that's the worst possible place you can be. That's being in a rut. So we got to get leveraged. Get leverage, now change is a must, isn't it? Isn't that really what this does? Change is a must. But along with the must Sometimes you do something so much, it gets literally built into your nervous system, like the little finger example I gave you yesterday. So now you don't even think about it, you're just doing it. So let's say now it's a must to make this change, and then you will notice you're doing it. So the second step to creating lasting change is you must interrupt the limiting pattern or the disempowering pattern. You must interrupt it. You must scramble it. If you break a pattern enough, again and again and again and again and again, pretty soon your body can't get back into it anymore. It's like, have you ever had somebody where you're really upset and you try to tell them you're upset with them, and then they crack a joke and they make you laugh and you want to still stay upset because you want to resolve it? And then you try to do it again and they make you laugh again, and after 4 or 5 times, pretty soon you can't get mad anymore. How many of you have had this kind of experience? Say aye. What did that person do? They interrupted your pattern enough times you couldn't get back into it. Think of it this way. Think of it as being like, how many of you listen to your music on compact discs, on CDs? Say aye. So when you listen to a CD, how come every time you listen to that CD, you hear the same music? Well, the answer is because even though you can't see it, on that disc is cut a pattern. It's cut right into it. So when the laser goes across it, it's the same pattern, plays the same music. Well, what if you're listening to a CD in your head, mentally? You have this set of beliefs you have already, a CD you're already listening to as a metaphor. And I take a new belief, a new CD, and try and jam it on top of the one that's already playing. So the only way to create lasting change is to interrupt the pattern. I got to take out the CD you got. I got to take out a needle and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth across that thing till I break the pattern so much, I scramble it up so much, it'll never play the same way again. Now you try to put it in there, it doesn't feel good. So now you're open to something new, and now I can give you a new pattern. So to create lasting change, you've got to get leverage, but you've also got to first interrupt the old pattern before you can create a new pattern. And I'll give you a simple example you've probably experienced in your life. You ever been in a conversation that's really important to you? You're really into it. You talk along with somebody, and somebody over here asks you some stupid question that has nothing whatsoever to do with what you're talking about. You say, what? What are you talking about? And they tell you, and you go, oh, and you answer their question, and now you come back to what you're talking about, and what happened? Come on, what happened? It's gone. How many of you have had this happen? Say aye. How many have had your pattern broken so strongly that even though this thing was important, you never figured out what it was and got back to it again? How many have had that happen? Say aye. So pattern interrupts are powerful. I'll give you an example. I used to bite my fingernails down to the quick when I was a kid. I mean, down to where they'd bleed. And I hated it, but I'd still do it. It was like something I was just trained to do with my body. And so I kept trying to change it. Trying, ought to tell you, it was a should. Right? I try. Try doesn't happen. So finally one day, I'm a young man, I'm in business, and I'm marketing this product or service to this particular woman who's the head of this company. And as I'm talking to her, I'm hoping to make a larger sale because this lady is magnificent. I'm thinking this could be a really important business relationship, right? And so we're developing a really great rapport, and she seems to really like me, and I really like her, and the relationship's starting to get fun and playful, and everything's great. And now we're coming back to the end, and we're going to close the deal, the business part of the deal, and I'm hoping to close an additional deal later on. And so as we put this thing across, and I hand her the paper to sign, as I do it, she suddenly grabs my hand. And I look at her, and she grabs my hand, and she goes, what is this? And she looks at my fingers, and they're all like red on the end, you know, from blood, where they bled and stuff and dried up, and it's really gross looking, right? She goes, what is this? What happened to you? I said, well, I bite my fingernails. She took my hand, and she just shoved it aside, and she goes, I can't do business with you. I said, what? She goes, I can't do business with somebody who doesn't even have enough self-discipline not to bite their own fingernails. She goes, I'm out of here, and she got up and left. I was like, hey. What a lowlife, what an unfeeling person. But then after a while, I started thinking, God, she's right. And that provided me with enough what? Physical pain didn't do it. Loss of love, that'll do it. Embarrassment, that'll do it. That gave me leverage. But then, after I did it, I did something called a swish pattern. Some of you are familiar with, I've written about in my books. Very effective pattern. And it's a conditioning pattern. So I did that, but I remember 2 days later, I'm in a movie, and as I'm in the movie, I'm sitting there, and as I do, I found my fingers in my mouth. Now, the good news is I noticed they're in my mouth. So instead of going, oh my God, this doesn't work, it's a failure, I went, oh cool, I realized that I caught it. So I did about 25 more swish patterns right there in the movie, and I've never touched my fingernails since. But the secret is I had to interrupt the pattern, right? So that process is what we're talking about here. Let me give you an example. I remember working with a man one time, and he told me, he always smoked cigarettes, and I knew him really well, and I said, listen, I can help you with that. And he goes, I don't want to change. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to make you change. One day he comes back and he's not smoking anymore. I said, what happened? He said, it's amazing, Tony. He said, I'll never smoke again as long as I live. He said he was sitting here in his library reading the newspaper and smoking a cigarette. And as he's reading the newspaper, smoking the cigarette, in walks waddles in his 5-year-old daughter, who's just totally precious. And he loves her more than anything. And she's crying hysterically. He goes, honey, what's the matter? He puts the paper down, still holding the cigarette. He says, honey, what's the matter? And she goes, Daddy, I don't want you to die. He goes, honey, I'm not going to die. What are you talking about? Yes, you are, Daddy. He goes, no, I'm not going to die. What do you mean? She points at the cigarette. And he looks at the cigarette, and he looks at her, and he says, oh, honey, I'm not going to die. That's nothing to worry about. She goes, yes, you are, Daddy. And I don't want you to, because I wanted you to be there when I got married. She starts crying hysterically. Right? In one fell swoop, 2 steps happen. Massive what? And a massive interruption in his pattern. See, he's willing to go through the physical pain himself, but he's not willing to hurt his daughter. Many of us will do more for others we care about than we'll even do for ourselves. For many, that'll be greater leverage than just you. But if you do something that creates leverage and interrupts the pattern, you got something that's really, really effective. Or I'll give you a different example. One of the first times I ever did a seminar in other languages, now I do, like my university, we have 7 languages translated simultaneously. But the first time I went to a foreign country was local. I went up to Canada. And I went up to Montreal, and I was sponsored there by a company in the area. And I didn't know what it was like to talk to a group like that, so I worked really hard, because if you've been to Montreal, you know, they're quite sensitive about the French language and against the English language. So I don't know any French, so I worked hard the night before and memorized a paragraph in French to introduce myself in. They all got headsets on, about 2/3 of the audience. I get up, and I say my name in French. Then I get up and I start speaking in French, which blew them away for about, 3 or 4 minutes. Then I said, that's all the French I know, went on. So we had a great time, a couple thousand people, great seminar. People loved it, it was really wonderful, great success. And I learned things like, when you tell a joke in a foreign language, what happens when you tell it in English, maybe 1/3 of your audience starts to laugh, the rest of the people are quiet, just staring at you. And then now you're on to something serious, and the other 1/3 of the room, 2/3 of the room starts laughing. It's kind of an interesting experience. So at the end of this event, I felt like it was a great success. And one of the people who was part of the company that sponsored me there comes out to me and says it was phenomenal, on, give me all these great compliments. So I thought, okay, they're sincere compliments, it's a great event. And then the person looks at me and says, Mr. Robbins, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to have dinner with us tonight. And the way they did, have you ever had somebody do something where you go, something's up? How many have had that experience, right? You just know, right? It isn't about dinner, obviously. But I thought, what the heck, why not? I want to find out what it is. So I said, sure. They said, okay, be there at X time. And they're acting so weird. So that night I get to the restaurant, and there's a private room where this company has taken over the room, and they sit me down in this like horseshoe set of tables, and at the very head is the chairman of the board, who's a very, very famous man in Montreal and very, very wealthy man. And next to him is his wife, and they put me on the other side of him, and then all the rest of the members of the company. He owns many companies, including the company that sponsored me. And so the conversation, dinner's not yet served. They're just, bringing drinks out and so forth. Things are going fine. People are being very warm and very nice. And then all of a sudden, this guy, the chairman of the board, turns across the table to this other man across the table and starts screaming at him 4-letter words and yelling at him and just dressing him down in front of everybody. And I couldn't even believe it. And so finally, I inside of me, I thought, man, this is really, really uncool. I really want to make a change in this man's physiology, because it was really abusive. But I thought, it's not your company, it's not your place, that's not why you're here. They got to deal with their own situation here. And basically, he used the leverage of his money to be abusive to other people. It became very obvious. It really annoyed me. So I kind of blew it off. We continued to have dinner. And then not 10 minutes later, he turns to his wife in front of everybody, starts screaming at her, calling her every kind of 4-letter word you can imagine in front of everybody. I couldn't even believe it. Now, my pot is boiling, right? And I'm thinking, this guy needs a major change in physiology, right? And so I'm thinking how I want to do this. And then all of a sudden, he calms down finally, and the whole room is just silent. You know what I mean? After one of those things, everybody's looks like beaten down dogs, being quiet, see what's going to happen. And this one